Charlie Kirk is dead, and it's our fault. It's everyone's fault. It's the fault of the people who have been continuing to push this narrative of, it's us against them. They're here to, they're trying to take away what we love. We're trying to take away what they love, and they deserve it. They deserve whatever they get. It's hard to watch. I was following updates on Twitter when it happened yesterday because I wasn't sure, who to believe. I just looked through all the replies, all the comments, and my wife is a big Charlie Kirk person. I don't much care for the guy, but I called her and told her, and she was she was heartbroken over it till she went to bed. But it really struck a chord with me because even though I'm not a big Charlie Kirk fan, I disagree with him on plenty of things. Especially when he, used the rationalizations of his religion for his political positions. That was one of my biggest gripes with him. But I'm the same age as Charlie Kirk. I have a little girl about the same age as his. And the idea that his little girl was sitting there when he got shot, and, he's never going to be able to, pick her up again. She's never going to see daddy again. That's, when I get home from work and I walk in the door and, my little girl runs up to me and, gives me a hug. Like, that's one of the best moments of my day. The best moment of my day. And as a dad, seeing, another dad that same age lose his life in that traumatic of a way is just, it's hard to watch. And it's a little easier to put yourself in their shoes if you have things in common with them. And even though I don't have all that much in common politically with them, as a person, I probably would have gotten along with them. And these are the things that were going through my head. Like, obviously this isn't about me, right? Like, the people that are affected by it the most are his family, especially his children. But what I'm trying to articulate here is we've become so desensitized to any and all violence, from the murder of that girl on the subway yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago now, I guess, and now this is why I kind of fell off from the political space, because it was getting so divided right after the election last year. I just noticed how divided it was, and I'd noticed before, obviously, but it was still, like, you think, okay, the election's over. People are always divided during elections. And now we've seen it continue to progressively divide more and more, but you would have thought that maybe after the initial shock of Trump's second election, some of the people that were super active in politics on the internet would have kind of faded away, but they didn't, and they weren't. So a couple of weeks after that, I had to take a breath, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do to come back and talk again about politics and get involved again and read the news, listen to the news, report the news, give opinions. I had a couple thousand people listening, and I just didn't feel like it was productive anymore. And this is exactly why. things have escalated, and this is exactly what I said to a friend right after this happened. One of my coworkers called me, and she was very upset about this. And I said, it's on social media, there's this culture of one-upism, where if I say something that you don't like, then you say something I don't like. It's kind of like Godwin's law. The first person to call someone else a Nazi loses, because we know that's ridiculous. Well, at a certain point, it became conceived as not as ridiculous, because people are on the internet right now calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi and saying he deserved what he got. In fact, someone that I actually have some level of respect for, Ben from the Drunken Peasants, was saying he lived by the sword, died by the sword, which I don't even know if that metaphor is applicable grammatically. But at any rate, he was basically saying Charlie Kirk should have expected to be killed because of the things he was saying. And, to some extent he's right, because people have gotten so crazy that if you were a commentator in the political space, you probably should stay online and stay the hell away from in-person events, which sucks, because you take away that level of connection that really means a lot to people. But it also brings a level of insensitivity with it when you talk like that, because you're like, it normalizes this idea that, yeah, somebody out there is crazy enough to kill you. And you don't realize how deep that is. Like, that's fucking wild. That's like third world country levels of wild. That's not what we want as our standard, right? And I saw a lot of leftist and left-wing commentators saying the same sort of thing. Well, Charlie Kirk spewed hate. What did he think was going to happen? Even if they were like, this is wrong, and I completely condemn this, they were still like, but a lot of them added this, second phrase of, but, he probably should have realized that somebody was going to do this at some point. And when we've accepted that, we have failed. We have failed. It's all of our fault. We've all contributed to this by pushing forward this culture, this attitude of desensitization toward violence, toward anger, and many people make it a spectacle of arguing and disagreeing on the internet. And when you grow up with that, impressionable people are going to do stupid things. For example, when I was a teenager on Facebook, it was very much just people, doing dumb things, like, or talking about their life, talking about their school. Facebook was not the political shithole that it is now. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm not on any social media other than YouTube anymore. But I do go scroll X once in a while in a burner account, but I don't post on any other social medias. I just use it as a way to gather information. But now, if you post something political on Facebook, you can expect people to respond to you and call you every name in the book. And not only that, there's, many political conversations on Facebook and people getting banned for death threats. It is escalated to this point. And when I say it's all of our fault, I don't mean that we've all engaged in these types of activities, but we've all participated in the environment that allows it. And I don't think any of us realized that this is what was happening. And people want to talk, violent video games and movies and all of that. They've done a couple of studies that show maybe this isn't, it's not related to rise in violent crime. But I wonder if, I just wonder if it took longer for the results to show, or it needed a particular environment of, you know, 2 generations that grew up playing those sorts of games and watching those sorts of movies. I do know that it can't be completely neutral to expose people to violence at very young ages, and expose people to porn at very young ages. You know, you can see that the idea that violence is anything serious is completely cheapened. You can see the idea that sex and relationships, that, you know, their value is much less perceptually than it historically has been. Family values, you know, the stability of having a solid family around you. The idea that that's important is definitely less popular. There used to be, nobody would argue about that. Now there are people that will disagree with the fact that, you know, being close with your family is, you know, one of the most important things. And it's you know, I'm kind of rambling, but that's because I'm trying to make sense of this terrible, terrible thing that happened. And, you know, I'll just, so I'm going to finish it off just by saying, you know, I don't believe in heaven or hell or God or any of that stuff, but if any of that exists, you know, I think Charlie Kirk was a genuine person, and I would hope that, you know, he rests in peace. And, but more than that, just I think about, you know, his little girl and his wife, and his son. His son probably, luckily, will not remember any of this. His little girl, I think, will. She's close to 3 years old, in that area, I believe, and she was right there. So I think this will be some trauma for her. I can't imagine what his family's going through right now. Especially with that gory video of him just being shared everywhere on the internet right now. Obviously a carotid artery was hit, just by the amount of blood he lost there. Once I saw the video, I knew he was never going to make it. Not now, not ever. No one's going to survive that. Unless you could be in the operating room when that happened, and you still probably would not make it. And if you did, the brain damage from having oxygen cut off from your brain is just, it would be so monumental. There would be a question as to whether or not it would be worth it to keep you alive. There really would, no matter what your age was. It would act essentially like a gigantic stroke. As soon as that carotid artery is pierced, then, and all that blood flow goes away from your brain, that part of your brain is going to die. It's exactly what happens with a stroke. It almost is a blessing for his family that he did die from that. And I say that in the most objective, medical, and loving way. He never would have been the same. He never would have been the same. He never would have been himself. He would have had so many issues. It's you know, it's a horrible, horrible thing that happened, but at least he's not suffering right now, and there's some degree of closure with that. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. I don't even know where we go from here. There's going to be, in my mind, there's probably going to be some enraged conservative that does something really stupid. There probably is. I've seen enough on the internet in the last couple of days that saying we can't take this lying down, we have to retaliate, all this, and it's wrong. Don't retaliate like that. Not in kind. You can't. Things will only escalate if you do. You kill one of theirs, they're gonna kill two of yours, and it is just it's gonna continue that way until it's an all out war. And just you have to take a big breath, and you have to do the rational thing. So that's about it. I'll see you guys next time.